Welcome, everybody. It is time to talk football, and it is the AFC West. In my opinion, the best conference, the best division in football. And I got some great co hosts with me to talk Kansas City, Las Vegas, and of course, my Chargers. We're going to talk about this tonight. So let's real quickly, we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Rob Logan. Obviously, I am on the Let's Talk Sports Network. I do a ton of different shows on here, a lot of football shows, especially on Sunday. I did a late night wrap up last year. I'm not sure what I'm doing this year. I'm doing something, I don't know, but I will be on Sundays, Saturdays. I do an interview show every week. And so I am just glad to be here, glad to be talking football. We're actually one day away. It's Wednesday night. Tomorrow night starts the season. I think everybody's happy. Everybody here obviously is happy. So I'm going to turn it over to the far end.
Hello. Yep, my name's Lisa Fox. I am a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I actually live in Kansas City. As far as my podcast, I actually wanted to start one last year. I had, a former Chief lined up and it fell through. And then I had an analyst lined up and it fell through. So I didn't really start one. I'm going to do one this year. It's called Arrowhead High. So I hope you join me. It will be on YouTube and hopefully on the Let's Talk Sports channel as well. So yeah, that's me.
Very cool. Very cool.
Awesome. My name is Omar Fonseca, actually from Ball and Buds. Make it easy. I just show you the sign. That's my sports and entertainment network that I run with me and my buddies, similar to Let's Talk Sports. But we also work with Dan, obviously. And you can also catch me on another Let's Talk Sports show called The Bottom Line Sports. And so I'm on there with three other guys from Let's Talk Sports, Flo, Ken, and Hot Take Jake. And we'll be on every Sunday after your afternoon games at 7 p.m. Eastern. Will be your prime time right before the Sunday night game. So you can catch us there on Let's Talk Sports or at Ball and Buds or The Bottom Line Sports. So thank you.
Omar, man, you better not be taking. I'm going to tell you, if I get that late night game again on Saturday, that Sundays that I have to cover, I already put into Dan Harris that I need an earlier slot because I'm getting older. I can't be getting up early Mondays anymore. That was killing me last year. Me and my boy Johnny Cruz was the late night team. And I got to tell you, if you ever want to just go watch, we probably did not talk anything about football at 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday night.
Wow.
It was whatever kept me awake was literally what we were talking about. So hopefully I don't have that again, but we'll see. And but we are all obviously all geared up for the start of the season. We've been talking about this now for weeks. We've been counting it down. Literally, for a Chief fan, you got tomorrow night to get all ready for. So let's just go. What are some of your thoughts overall on the season? What are you looking forward to this season, Lisa?
I am looking forward to seeing our young wide receiving crew develop and I want to see them ball out. I mean, we've got Justin Ross from Clemson. I mean, he was a number one recruit until he had that issue with his spine fusion thing. He had surgery, came back, played at Clemson for a year. Then he had a foot issue. And so he didn't play last year because he had to get that foot had surgery on that foot again because it wasn't done correctly the first time. So, everybody in Kansas City is so excited that not only Justin Ross made the team, but that we get to watch him. I mean, we got to watch him in preseason, and it was just really kind of special, even though it was a pretty generic, game plan. But everybody in Kansas City cannot wait to see Justin Ross. We've got Sky Moore coming back. We've got Kadarius Toney coming back. Of course, we've got Travis Kelce. Who else do we have coming up? Oh, Richie James. So we have Richie James on our team now. He's also going to be doing punt returns and kickoff returns. Rashee Rice was our number 2, our second round pick. He's coming along nicely. We're carrying 7 wide receivers. That's the first time in the Andy Reid era in Kansas City that we've carried 7 wide receivers. So it's super exciting. It is also a little scary because our veteran wide receiver is MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and he has like more than twice the number of catches that all of the other 6 wide receivers have combined on the team. So they're going to have to grow up fast. And especially if Travis Kelce doesn't play tomorrow, they're going to have to grow up fast and they're going to have to really step up. So excited to see them go for it, man. It's going to be scary, but it's also going to be just, man, a ride.
Omar, I got a question for you. How tough do you think the AFC alone is going to be? There's so many good teams this year. Obviously you have Aaron Rodgers coming over now to the Jets. The East is, stacked. You got the Bengals, you got the Browns, you got the Titans still. Now you got, Ravens. It's almost like there's probably almost every team has a possibility in the AFC West to make it to the playoffs. How hard do you think it's going to be for the AFC West teams to make the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, the parity in the AFC right now is just amazing. There's so many teams, as you mentioned, with a chance, and so many high-powered teams in each division. I mean, if you go from the East with the Bills and the Dolphins, you got everybody just has high-powered offenses. If you come to the AFC West, you got the Chargers and the Chiefs at the top there. So how hard is it going to be? Well, only 2 teams from the AFC West are realistically going to make it, because you're already looking at least getting 2 teams from the East and possibly also 2 teams from the North. And then you get your 1 team from the South, which is probably going to be Jacksonville. So again, very, very tough AFC, as you've mentioned. I mean, it's so tough that some of these offenses out here make me worried as a Raiders fan that we did not improve our defense enough and that we are just going to be blown out of a lot of these games. And it's not going to look good for the teams like myself and the other teams such as the Texans and, the not so much haves at this point in time. So it's not going to be easy, especially for the AFC West, because they also have, the AFC East that they have to contend with as their interconference divisional games.
Let me ask you. So you were talking about your defense. Obviously, that's a worry for you. Talk a little bit about your roster. What are you excited about? Lisa was talking about the wide receivers and how they're going to gel. Very young nucleus there for the Chiefs. What do you think of your roster? What you guys did off season? Obviously, you have a little bit of a question mark going on. With Chandler Jones. I know there's something going on with him. What's your thoughts on everything?
Yeah, we haven't got the full story on that yet, but he was reportedly locked out of the facilities yesterday with no response from the team yet, other than to say it is a private matter. So, the rumors I'm hearing are it's not going to look good for that, but I don't have any actual insider info to what actually happened. So we'll have to find out there. But that being said, while I did say that the Raiders defense does not look good, and it does not, where they did make improvements, if anywhere, would have been in their secondary. They brought in Marcus Peters. They brought in Marcus Epps from the Eagles. They brought in Jacorian Bennett as a draft pick from the University of Maryland. They got Nate Hobbs returning and also Trevor Mourning. So a really good secondary, I do believe, that is young and can develop. Their linebacker core is one of the weakest, if not the weakest in the league. I could tell you the names, but none of you would know any of them. So it doesn't even matter. I'm not going to waste your time. On the defensive line, we did draft Tyree Wilson, number 7. Hopefully he can overcome his foot injury that he had from college, because if this Chandler Jones situation does not play out as hopefully I would hope it plays out, which is I hope for the best, but if it doesn't, we're going to need him to step up because the defensive line is, again, not very strong other than Max Crosby.
Obviously, I'm the Charger fan here representing the Chargers. I've been on this network spewing Charger stuff for a couple years. And I'm actually very excited too for some of the younger crop of players that we have. I think we went out and we got a very good weapon in Quentin Johnston for Herbert. He's a good deep threat ball. Yeah, I think that's where the Chargers are going to go, a little bit more vertical, try to get down the field, which I believe will definitely benefit Herbert in this offense. Obviously, we have a new offensive coordinator, which is probably the biggest change for us this year. What we had last year in Mike Lombardi was not good. We were talking about this before the show. His offense was just so vanilla to me. In looking at Herbert play, he didn't look like he was challenged at all running this offense. And that's a problem when you have your best player is not 100% into the game because of, what he's running or what he has to do. I think that's a big, big thing that if, you go out there and you challenge your best players, that's what you do as a coach. You bring a more complex offense to your better player and see if he can run it. I think he will do that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Herbert does this year. Question for both of you. Lisa, I'll ask you first. Obviously, I brought up Kellen Moore. Will Justin Herbert take a next step, if there is a next step for Justin Herbert, with Kellen Moore calling plays?
Okay. Justin Herbert, I kind of talked to you a little bit about this earlier. I think that Justin Herbert has incredible talent. Just incredible talent. I mean, his arm strength is incredible. I think that he is learning now to, learning touch as opposed to just slinging it in there. But I think he has a lot of heart. I think that maybe he's just missing that killer instinct where he just flips that switch and can just do what he needs to do to put his team on his back and win. Until I see that, I don't think so. And I mean, I know that you said that he's done that a lot of times, but it matters when it matters. So he needs to do it when it matters. And if he doesn't, then, I mean, he played great on the first half of that, the divisional game or the wild card game, but then they put up 3 points in the second half. He's got to come through. So until I see it, I don't want to be like Patrick Mahomes, but I'll believe it when I see it, or I'll see it when I believe it.
Well, Lisa, listen, I got a stat for you that I looked up. In the Jaguars game, right? Second half of the Jaguars game, the Chargers threw 76% of the time, as opposed to the Jaguars, who were down, only throwing for 70% of the time. So the Chargers actually threw the ball more in the second half than the Jaguars did, the team that was behind. That is on the OC. That is on the offensive coordinator who is playing, calling the plays. So we got to see how things go with Herbert. Omar, what are your thoughts being a Raider fan of Justin Herbert, and do you think there's another level with him now that he is with Kellen Moore?
Yeah, as much as I loved, the argument that Lisa had against Justin Herbert, because it was a very reasoned and logical argument. I think, and I told my teammates on the Bottom Line Sports this the other day, I think that while Kellen Moore, was a hindrance in Dallas and was not conducive to the style that Dak plays with, I think that on the other hand, he is the perfect key to a player like Justin Herbert. And I believe he can be that unlocking mechanism. And I've said this before, Justin Herbert, who I thought, I'm a UCLA Bruin fan too. So I saw him quite often in the Pac-12. Which would no longer be, but anyways, rest in peace. But Justin Herbert, I think, yeah, exactly. I think he's an amazing player, and I actually have him as probably, I haven't decided yet, but he was my early front runner for MVP this year. I think that's how important Kellen Moore will be to that offense and Justin Herbert.
Another thing you got to watch out for, and I said this on another show that I was on. Somebody had me as a guest for the San Diego Chargers to talk about the team. One of the things I am most excited to see is the offensive line for the San Diego Chargers. You have Rashawn Slater, first-round pick, All-Pro. You got Zion, Johnson, another first-round pick. Corey Lindsey, great center. You got Jamar Slayer, who is moving in from the tackle spot into to play guard. He only filled in for Slater and was one of the best tackles as far as, giving up quarterback pressures. And then you got Pimpkins on the other tackle. So if those 5 guys stay intact, and that's a big if, because one of the biggest things with the Chargers, obviously, injuries always seem to kick us in the balls every single year. So if these 5 guys can stay healthy and play all 17 games or 16 games at least, I think that's another big key for Herbert's, taking the next step. Go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on that. I really agree. Y'all have one of the strongest offensive lines in the whole league. And I think that is going to be a very big help. The thing that I will say against that is I also agree with what you said earlier. Coaching is the issue. Now, last year, again, you mentioned it was the OC calling too many passing plays to hinder you in that wild card game. But also, Brandon Staley has to have some sort of responsibility for that and the way that he has let this team, pretty much crap out the past couple of years, including prayers for Mike Williams with all the news that came out today, hope that he's going to be okay. But, Brandon Staley making the decision to run him out there in week 17 last week and getting him injured before the playoff game. It's just, it's decisions like that, which make you think that these coaches that they're bringing in the AFC West these days, other than Andy Reid, are just the craps, because Josh McDaniels and Nathaniel Hackett are both worse than Brandon Staley, and that's not saying much.
No, that's not saying much at all. I'm telling you, I am the biggest Staley hater there is on this network. I think for 17 weeks last year, at 12 o'clock on a Sunday night, you could hear me ranting and using every foul language word there was against Staley. So I am not, I do not like Staley whatsoever. Now, you mentioned Reid, so let's segue into some Chiefs talk. Obviously, Super Bowl champions, very hard to repeat. So that's a big thing right there. But on the defensive side, Chris Jones holding out. How big of an impact is that going to be on the Chiefs defense, Lisa?
It's going to be interesting. Everybody in Kansas City is kind of freaking out a little bit. Never thought it would get to this, and never thought he would miss a game. So yeah, everybody's freaking out. I usually wear my Chris Jones jersey, in the very first game, and I don't know if I'm going to do it this time. I'm not blaming him. I'm not blaming the Hunts and the organization. It just is what it is. But he's so necessary for our team. I mean, without Chris Jones and that pressure that he gets, I fear that the Lions are going to run it down our throats. I fear that they're going to score more points than some people think they will, because I'm a Jared Goff believer. So some people don't feel that way. I absolutely am. I think he's a good player, and he's shown us before against the Chiefs that he is. So I think that some people are hurt. Some people are angry. Some people understand. Some people are rooting for him. I just need him to get back on the field. I don't care what happens with the contract. I just need him back on the field, because Nick Wright says we can go 20-0 on, first things first. I don't need to go 20-0. I just need to get back to the Super Bowl. And without Chris Jones, it's going to be tough. I mean, even if he does hold out 8 weeks, which I hope 8 games, which I hope he doesn't, I mean, we need every single game. Like I said, we've got a young wide receiving crew. We've only got 3 running backs this time. We only have 3 tight ends, because one of our tight ends got injured. We were hoping to have 4 finally on the field together, and just didn't happen. So we really need to buckle it up on offense and score some points, because as long as Chris Jones is out, it's going to be an issue.
Omar, question. Why do you think it's so hard to win back-to-back Super Bowls every year?
Yeah, the Super Bowl hangover is real. And, some of that can be attributed to the longer play throughout the season, where you play obviously more games, so it's less off-season rest. You also have to look over at the turnover. A lot of times when teams win the Super Bowl, they experience turnover because a lot of those players say, all right, well, I got my ring. Now I can go get paid, or now I can go to a team, my hometown team I want to play for, or I can go chase another ring. But once a team wins, it's like you said, very, very hard in the NFL to go back to back. So hard that a team like Kansas City, who is, heads and tails above most teams in the league these days since they got Mahomes, has not been able to do that. Right. And I don't see them doing it this year either. Sorry, didn't mean to give my pick out, but I just think that it's just really too hard to do. And there's a lot of reasons that go into that. Like, look at the Eagles last year. They won the Super Bowl, lost both of their coordinators. So again, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but teams that win the Super Bowl are going to experience more turnover and more uncertainties the next year that cause them, not like in other sports, right? The Denver Nuggets, they're the favorites to win the title this year again. In basketball, it's a lot easier to do that. So.
And here's another one, Rob. When you win the Super Bowl, everybody gives you their best shot. I mean, they super plan for you. And I mean, the gauntlet is tough enough as it is. Man, you're getting everybody's best shot. And I think maybe that's why, your coach brought back some people a little bit early for that Kansas City game last season. So I think that contributed a little bit to some injuries late in the season. But anyway, just you get everybody's best shot, and it is so tough every single game, every single week.
Well, and Omar, you mentioned about a turnover. Lisa, how is it a big deal that you no longer have Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator? Do you think that is going to have any effect on the offense?
People aren't really talking about it as much. Most people in Kansas City are really happy for EB for finally getting out of Kansas City and hoping that this will be maybe his stepping stone to a head coaching position, which, depending on how it goes with the Commanders, probably will. But because Nagy was here Mahomes' first year, and they were really close. And then he came back and he was here last year. So he's been in the system. He understands the system. It will look different because, if he's going to be calling plays, it's going to be a little bit different. But it's still Andy Reid, and it's still his offense. So it won't look too different. But it'll be interesting to see the types of ideas and creativity that he brings to the offense as opposed to EB. So, I don't think really people have been talking about it a lot, mainly because they believe in Andy Reid and they believe in Patrick Mahomes. But again, because Nagy's been in the system a couple of times and Mahomes is comfortable with him, it's really not been an issue. But we'll see. Maybe it is, and we just don't know it yet.
I was gonna move on to the Raiders, but before we don't have our Broncos correspondents here tonight, but I just want to ask both of you a question. Do you, and I'll start, Omar, with you. Do you think Sean Payton is actually becoming a little bit of a distraction for the Denver Broncos as far as kind of how loud he is and how strict he is and how he goes about his coaching style? Do you think it's becoming a little bit of a distraction for them?
Yeah, I would normally, in most cases, in that sort of a new coach comes in, rah-rah, and around the team up. Most times I would say that would be more of a distraction than anything. And while I believe that his shot at Nathaniel Hackett was past uncouth and really was against the whole coaching fraternity, he does come from the Bill Parcells tree of coaching, and that is the way that Bill Parcells coached. That is the way that Bill Parcells got a hold of his players. That is the way that Bill Parcells talked to other coaches. That is the way Bill Parcells talked to, Jerry Jones. So, not that excuses his behavior. I'm not saying it does, but coming from that line that he came from, you can see the traits that he's inherited over time to make him the coach that he is. And while normally I would say that this is usually a distraction, with this team and how horribly they performed last year and the need for Russell Wilson to kind of have that kick in the butt, and not to mention him, but just everybody else in general, I believe it actually is gonna work out for them in the end, that he did it this way.
Yeah, you see a lot, it's weird when you see quotes from a coach all plastered over social media, and he's definitely coming up with some different quotes at different players. It's kind of unique to see that, right, Lisa?
It really is. And, initially I thought, wow, he really stepped in it. And it's really surprising because, he should know better. But now that, I was listening to Omar talk, and I was just thinking, and now I think I kind of have a different perspective on the whole situation, because Sean Payton is smart and he knows what he's doing. So it's really surprising that he did that initially, talking about the Jets and calling everybody out on in the Broncos. But I think there's a reason that he's being so outspoken, and now it's telling oh, this is what I said to Russell Wilson, and he can't, he's not running for president. It is a little distracting, but I think other people have said this before too, but I think that maybe he's just preparing for the worst. And he's just covering himself. And, if he's got to bring in, who was it? Jared Stidham? Is that who it is? They're back up now? Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. If they have to bring in Jared Stidham, I think he's kind of creating that narrative that, I'm really tough and I'm doing this and everything I'm doing is right. And, and I'm 100% behind my quarterback, but if he doesn't play well, we're going to put in. So I don't know. I think that everything he does is calculated. And I think that maybe he's putting the spotlight on him so he can say, okay, I've done everything I can. It's not me. It's Russ. He's cooked. That's how I see it now. It just came to me. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Because I
want to back Lisa up on that completely, because that is actually very, very logical. And I didn't even think about that, but that's a fail-safe as well. He can say all of that and use that as well. I tried to motivate the team. They just weren't good enough. You saw from the year before, it wasn't me. So I agree. Great point, Lisa.
And the wide receivers are out, or not out, but are injured. So it's going to be a tough season for them. So I think that's just my opinion, Rob. Sorry.
It's tough when you have a coach that's coming in with an ego, and that's why a lot of times a lot of these teams look at the younger coaches to try to bring in and try to develop, as opposed to these big name coaches that they have coming in, is because you're not only getting the coach, you're getting his ego as well. And I think that's what's happening with Sean Payton right now, because both you guys make a lot of sense with what you're saying as far as kind of setting himself up. Should be interesting. Be interesting.
Very interesting.
But I don't want to save. I'll tell
you, hey, Rob, real quick. I don't mean to cut you off. I hate to step on you. I'll tell you who won't be there if they go 4-12 again. Mr. Russell Wilson will not be there.
That is true.
I think he'll be there. Can they get rid of him that quickly? I mean,
that's the only thing, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he'll be there. He just might not be playing.
Hey, I was one of the guys that actually drafted in my fantasy league Russell Wilson as my backup quarterback, because I was like, you know what? There's a possibility that Peyton's going to light that fire underneath him, and he's going to come out and play like Russell Wilson did. So I'm hoping it goes that way for my fantasy team, but then not for the Broncos as a whole, obviously.
Understood.
Yeah. So last but not least, the Las Vegas Raiders. I have a cousin he's like a brother to me. We're very close. He is the biggest Raiders fan there is. So we have a lot of fun going back and forth. We bet pretty much everything there is to bet when we play against one another, whether it be cooking dinners to washing cars to, wearing the other's uniforms or whatever. So we have a lot of good times with us being, rivals. Omar, the Raiders this year, Dan had put some questions together. One of the questions he had was, and I don't know how to say this kind of gently, but are the Raiders in a rebuild type mode at this point in time?
Yes, I saw that question in the lineup, and I asked myself, that's a very polite way that Dan placed that wording in there, retooling.
Well, I said rebuilding because I thought that was a better word to use than retooling, but I'm glad you brought that up.
Retooling, rebuilding, tearing down every 3 years just to do it again. What's the difference? I don't know. It's one in one hand, two in the. Who cares? It's the same thing every year. It's been this way for 20 years, y'all, and it's obviously it's very sickening. I've been a lifelong Raiders fan. I love my Raiders, but for the past 20 years since we went to the Super Bowl in 2002. Everything has been downhill. We have tried to build this team up multiple times with different quarterbacks, with different coaches, and every time we get to a certain spot and tear it all back down again before we ever reach where we were the goal that we were trying to get to. Now, whether that's the turnover of quarterbacks or coaches every year, or whether that's, building up a team to where Del Rio had a playoff team and then the next year bringing in Gruden, starting again, building it all back up. And then obviously he didn't want to get rid of Gruden, but Gruden got rid of him. Now you got to do it all over again. It seems like every 3 years we're just doing this, tear it down, build it up. Oh, but sorry, not good enough built up that we just have to tear it back down again and just, basically be trash every year.
So you're saying you're in a rebuild right now too, as well.
I would say a rebuild is not the right word because this is not going to last very long. It's going to be just another tear down process. If McDaniels loses 4 games again this year, he's gone. There's no way Mark Davis is going to put up with that. And, this may be the hottest take on earth. I've said it plenty of times on the Bottom Line Sports. If McDaniels is fired, John Gruden will be your coach of the Raiders the following year. I guarantee
really?
that. Mark Davis didn't want to get rid of him in the first place, and he's already coaching in Tampa Bay, helping out in the training camp. So I guarantee you he would love to have Gruden back, and so would every Raiders fan, including myself. I know he said some horrible things. I want the coach. I don't care about the person. That being said, the Raiders are not a good team, just like every other year. They did not do enough to build around to make them any better, to be better against the teams in this division, much less conference, like we mentioned earlier.
All right, Lisa, I got 3 names for you, Raider-wise. You got Jimmy G as your quarterback coming in, obviously.
Okay.
Whether that's an improvement or not over, David Carr, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
You still have Josh Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
You still have Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this offense could be good enough to score some points to keep these games good for the Raiders?
Well, yeah. I mean, Devontae Adams, come on. Jimmy G, I mean, if he can stay healthy, and I hate saying that because everybody says that about anybody now that gets injured, and everybody gets injured. But Jimmy G, come on. So if he can play the entire season, I'll put it like that. Yeah, they can score some points. Absolutely. Josh Jacobs, come on. Happy or not, athletes are going to play. They're going to play, and they're going to play hard because that's what they do. So, yeah, they're going to, and they have a lot of pride and they want to win. So, yeah, they can score points.
The challenge is going to be on the defensive side, and you're seeing one of your leaders on the defensive side, Chandler Jones, having issues. There's always seems to be it's crazy. And Omar, you follow this team very closely, so you might be able to, shed some more light. But to me, there always seems to be some distraction off the field
Yes.
that comes up during the season, beginning season, towards the end, whatever. That's such a distraction for the Raiders. And it just, it always seems to happen every year. There's always something. Is that Mark Davis? Is that how, is it ownership down that this stuff always seems to happen?
This is going to be a very tough answer for me. It is true. The Raiders shoot themselves in the foot every year. The 2021 season, 2021 was an epitome of that, where you had the Ruggs situation, the Arnett situation, rest in peace, Tina Tinter. That was a horrible situation, but they had all these different situations, and the Gruden situation. It always seems like something is coming back to bite us. Is that ownership driven? Yes, but is it Mark Davis driven? No. Mark Davis is much more hands-off than his father was. Rest in peace to the great Al Davis. I love him and miss him very much, but he had his own style. He was a rebel. He did not like the NFL. He sued the NFL all the time. There's been curses placed on the Raiders. The NFL has always tried to, put the screw to the Raiders as much as possible. This is culture driven, and it was a culture built by Al Davis to be the rebels, to be the Raiders, to be the counter culture, to be the people that are going to stand up against the government or whatever, for lack of a better term that I can think of at this point in time. So I think it's more culture driven of the Raiders in their whole history. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing, except when it gets to that point of like 2021, where now you have guns being pulled and people being unfortunately losing their life, and then other people having comments that they shouldn't be saying. Like, that was a season that was just magnified of what the Raiders experience every year to year in some sort of little situation that happens. You can go back to 2006, where Al Davis and Art Shell were fighting, and this is like a Hall of Famer on our team, coaching our team, and they're getting into it. And so, again, like you said, just shooting ourselves in the foot. And I believe it's a thing that's built into the culture. But again, I don't think that's a bad thing, because it has also helped us to be the winning team that we were when we were winning 20 years ago. So
that's a very good point. That style has won for you in the past. It just hasn't it's not battle tested over time, maybe. But that's a very good point, Omar, that you brought up. I want.
If I may add, I just want to add on to what you all were saying about the scoring and the defense. The offense is not the problem for the Raiders. We all know that. As you all pointed out, right, we've got the star players on offense. Whether Jimmy G is an upgrade or not, I don't think so. I think that Derek Carr was the heart and soul of the franchise, and they could have done a lot better by him. That being said, they're turning this into Patriots West. I looked at the roster, and I believe I counted 18 players that have Patriots ties on this year's roster out of the 56. That's 1/3 of the players. So you can see what they're trying to do here. As I've made a joke on the Bottom Line Sports, I keep saying that Bill Belichick sent these people to implode us from the inside because he hates the Raiders. But I cannot confirm or deny that conspiracy theory. That being said, the defense is the issue. We are going to be in shootouts all year long, and our offense is going to be the only way that we win any games. So,
you had mentioned about the players. There's a lot of former Chargers on your team as well. If you look at that, I was looking at your roster before we came on tonight, and the amount of names that were coming from Tillery, who was a former top round pick of ours. There's a couple of cornerbacks. There's a couple of safeties. So you guys got a lot of Chargers too. So that could be another reason why your defense might not be that good this year.
And I think the NFL is very in its own way. I can't think of a good word for what I'm trying to say, but the NFL is by itself in that sort of situation, right? Like in baseball, you're not going to see the Yankees trade with the Red Sox. You're not going to see these players going, from rival to rival because they're built in so much more. But in football, players change teams so often that when we're playing each other, we're scouting each other's teams to see, okay, who can we pick up next year? So when we picked up Jerry Tillery, we were probably evaluating him the year before, saying,
Yep.
we like that guy. Let's go get him. So.
Yep, very true, very true. All right, let's get into predictions for each team record-wise. I'm going to go first just to kind of lay out where my parameters are. We've kind of obviously the Raiders. I do have last in the division. I have them at 4-13 this year. I have the Broncos next at 7-10. I have the Chargers at 11-6, which might be a little bit of a reach, but I'm shooting for the stars with that. And then I got the Chiefs winning at 13-4. That's where I kind of see the division playing out. Lisa, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I didn't go through the schedule because I honestly think that's bad luck, and I hate to make predictions, but since I'm on the show and I agreed to it, I will. But again, I didn't go through, so I don't know wins and losses for each team. I will say, Kansas City, I don't like to say this, but
you don't wait. If you don't want to give out numbers, you
Okay.
can just throw in line as far as winning, last place, as far as team goes. We don't
Okay.
have to go into numbers. I don't want to put any hex on you or anything by doing that. So
okay, thank you. Because when I participate in these things, I like to play along, but it really does make me uncomfortable. So I do think, I personally do not believe in Russell Wilson anymore. And I know that everybody's putting the Raiders in fourth place, but I'm going to put the Broncos in fourth place. And then I'm going to put the Raiders in third because Jimmy G and McDaniels are together again. So I think that the offense will run a little bit better this season. And then of course the Chargers, and I think the Chiefs will win the division.
all right, Omar, what do you got?
Well, you're better than me, Lisa. I must not be that good of a fan. No, I'm just okay. I'm just realistic. I've lived with it for 20 years, so I'm kind of like, I'm trying to be as realistic as possible. And plus, I do think that what I said earlier about Sean Payton coming in is going to have that effect on Russell Wilson. So I do think that they do improve this year, and I don't think that the Raiders improve as much. That being said, I do have a question real quick, Rob. Did you look through the schedule when you made those predictions?
I did.
Okay, no, that's great. That's great because I did too. So on the Bottom Line Sports, we each went through all the schedules, and we had to give like detailed reports of ours. And mine is pretty much almost just like yours. We're a win off here and there, but I got the Chiefs at 13-4 as well. I had the Chargers at 11 like you, but I went through the schedule a second time and I took them down to 10. I had the Broncos at 7 originally, and I bumped them up to 8.
No, really?
Yeah, I think that Sean Payton is going to have that much of effect on them.
Wow,
I really do.
okay.
I do. And then I have the Raiders. I had them at 4 originally, like you did. But I being a fan and, maybe it biased me a little bit. I went back and took a second look, and I bumped it up to 6. So the Raiders will be in 4th. Broncos a little better this year, still not making the playoffs, in 3rd. And then Chargers and Chiefs, no matter if the Chargers have 10 or 11 wins, they're still going to make the playoffs, and those will be your 2 playoff teams.
Okay, so Lisa, do you think the Chargers make the playoffs as well?
I do not.
Okay. I got to be honest. They're the team that's going to be right there on the fence either way. Because I definitely think, like I had brought up earlier, the AFC is going to be a very good overall. So, having 10 wins, maybe, it might not get you to that playoff spot. You might have to have 12 wins or at least 11 wins to even have a possibility, because there's going to be a lot of teams with a lot of wins, I think, in the AFC. And I think it's going to be tough. That's what's going to be the hardest point, is just, I think the Chargers will be good. And from a talent standpoint, they're that good. But I just think there's going to be so many other teams that are there as well that are going to be in the mix. It's going to be tough for them. But I'm saying they probably will make the playoffs. So I'm going to go that route as I end that conversation there. But let's talk real quickly, just to kind of end things on the show. Let's talk a little bit about our own team's games this week. Omar, the Raiders are playing the Broncos. It would have been right there. What are your thoughts on the game? Right now, the Raiders are getting 3.5 points. So what's your thoughts of that first game for week 1?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. And if you want me to do give you the scores for other games, I got those as well. But for that game specifically, new coach, Sean Payton, home altitude, Denver, right? New players on the Raiders. Maybe some of them haven't been there yet. First game of the season, raucous crowd. I just cannot see the Raiders going into that situation and winning the game. I cannot see it. So I have the Broncos pulling out a close victory because I think that both offenses will sputter in the first week. And I have the Broncos winning a field goal game 24-21.
Okay. So the Raiders cover then.
Yeah, they'll cover, but I mean, it was very close for me to putting 7 points, more than 3. So I could see it going either way, to be completely honest. I
got you. All right, Lisa, you don't have to necessarily go into numbers.
Oh, I can do that on other teams.
Okay, all right, but
just not the Chiefs.
Just the other teams.
Obviously, your Thursday night game tomorrow night, Lions coming in to play your Chiefs. The Lions are getting 4.5 points.
Is it 4.5 now? Okay.
Yeah, it is at 4.5. I just checked before the show. I actually, a lot of people have the Lions as their sweet pick this year to advance, and some people are even saying Super Bowl or whatever. The money line for the Lions in this game is plus 180, which I think for this being week 1 and them playing the Chiefs, that's actually not bad to take a little bit of a chance on the money line with the Lions. Now, that's if you are if you want to take a little bit of a chance as a bettor. But I found that line to be pretty interesting.
That is interesting indeed. And so is the 4.5, because it started at 6.5, and earlier today it was 5.5. So, they're, considering the whole Chris Jones situation, I 100% get that. And then, of course, Kelsey and his hyperextended knee, totally get that as well. I think that it's the first game of the season. Patrick Mahomes has never lost first game of the season. Andy Reid has won 7 games in a row, first games of the season. If we lose this game, I think a lot of people will blame Chris Jones. I think that maybe if we do lose this game, the deal doesn't get done and he's not a Chief next season. That's what I'm thinking. But I think that, Jahmyr Gibbs, everybody's talking about him. They're talking about the high-flying offense, and we recognize that. And we've got some, still some young guys in our secondary. But, they really came on strong last season. So I hope that they're up to the challenge. And I don't put anything past Patrick Mahomes. He's had great first games so far in his career. Hopefully this will be another one. If it's not, I don't even want to hear the narrative. So I just pray that he goes out there and he does well, because I can't even take it if they don't do well and we lose. So
you said you're a golf believer too.
I am a golf believer. I think that he's underrated. I think that a lot of the reason that he's looked at in the NFL the way he is because of Sean McVay, and everybody holds Sean McVay in such high regard, and the things that he had said about golf along the way, in the years after they won the Super Bowl. I think that has a lot to do with the narrative surrounding him. So I think that he's better than a lot of people think. I think he's in a place that supports him so he can thrive. And I expect them to come out swinging. But I expect us to counter.
Okay. Omar, I got a question for you. Talking about Goff having good year, the offense for the Lions, the Chiefs defense maybe not being 100% right now, maybe same thing with Detroit. The over-under is 52.5 points for this game.
Yes.
Do you think it's over or under?
Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, actually, I think, and you got me. You said it was what, 52 and a half or 52? Sorry.
52 and a half.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, yeah, I'm right under. I'm at 52. And both of these teams I think are going to have good offenses, as Lisa said. We already know the Chiefs do. I think the Lions are going to be a lot better this year. And what Lisa said really brought something to mind. The Chiefs never go down without a fight. If they're down, they're known to play clutch and come back, right, and win the game in the end because of Travis Kelce, because of Patrick Mahomes, because of Chris Jones, because of all these things, right? It reminds me of one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, Ric Flair, right? To be the man, you have to beat the man, right? And while that is one of the toughest things to do in the NFL is beat those tough teams like the Chiefs, the Eagles, so on and so forth, I have the Lions in an upset, 28-24. So 52 on the dot, 28-24. Lions coming in. I think there's too much uncertainty, as Lisa mentioned, for her team in the first week. And I believe that it's just going to be a kind of catch you off guard first week, kind of we're coming into your home. You're missing two of your top players. I'm not sure if Tony's going to be back for the first week or not, but I just see, I don't know. It hit me last night. I woke up in a sweat. I was like, the Lions are going to win. So that didn't really happen, but
Well, then that money line for Detroit is the way to go then. All right, and then the last game.
I just want to say something real quick, if I could, please.
Yep, go ahead.
Hey, they're not going to come in and catch us off guard. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes 100% understands what's happening. They hear what's going on. They've seen them play. They know what people are saying, and they expect them to come out, like I said, come out swinging. And we get everybody's best shot, like I said. So I think that with all the preparation that Andy and Patrick and the entire team has had, because you know how Andy is after a bye. So he's had all this time to think and to scheme. I think that people are underestimating the Kansas City Chiefs once again.
I love that you say. I love that you say that. Okay. Do you mind if I go, Rob? I apologize.
Yeah, go ahead. Go. Yeah.
Okay. No, I was gonna say I love that Lisa said that though, because when I was actually thinking about it, and I did not know these stats that Lisa had, which made me kind of counterthink when I was like, wow, I didn't know that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes were that good in the first game. I knew about the bye week stuff. But also you can think about, okay, we've had all offseason to prepare. We've also had all of these other issues throughout the offseason. So maybe, and again, I don't know the team as well as you do, but maybe there's some sort of distraction element, some sort of, just first week coming in. But again, now that you told me those stats, I'm backing up a little bit, but I have to stick with my picks.
I'm concerned about the Chris Jones distraction. I am concerned about that because it has been a huge distraction in Kansas City. I've been trying to push everybody back on the focus of the Chiefs and but yeah, that has been a distraction. So that's been a little bit concerning, I will admit.
Well, when I say anything when it has to come to the Chiefs, I just say two words: Patrick Mahomes.
Boom.
Right there. To me, that's he's the best at doing it. And he always seems to find a way to win, my opinion. So, but that's great talk on that one. The last game, Chargers, Dolphins. We played the Dolphins. We played the Dolphins last year. We beat the Dolphins 23-17 last year. Tua only threw for 145 yards. He looked scared in that game. That was a couple games after he had that really bad concussion. So there's a lot of things going on. Herbert threw for 367 yards in this game last year. I truly do believe that Kellen Moore is going to have a very positive effect. I think my defense has all of its players healthy. Finally, it might be the last time that they're all healthy, the first game. But at least going in, everybody's healthy that should be playing as far as stars to go. So I think that this game is not going to be as close as last year's. I have the Chargers winning. I wrote down the score. Where did I write down my score here? On my notes here. Oh, my God. What did I write? 30. Oh, I wrote 35-17 as my score. I think the Chargers put up offensive wise some big
blowout. Numbers. Miami doesn't score more than 17. Wow.
I'm sorry.
I can't agree with that. I can't agree with that.
Hey, you guys, listen, I'm telling you, there's going to be a change. And let me just say this. If there is going to be a change this year, it has to start with the first game of the season. And if it does happen, then you have to finally say, all right, listen, maybe the Chargers are finally maybe going in that right direction. It could also go the opposite way, but I'm going to try to stay positive, and I'm going to try to will it to go this way because I've tried everything else at this point in time with the Chargers. So
I don't have a problem with the Chargers. I mean, I think that, it's going to be, it's 17 for
that's tough.
I'm sorry.
I got to be honest. I'm not a big fan of Tua. I do not think Tua is a good quarterback. I mean, I think he's good, but I don't think he's top level material as far as quarterbacks go. I think he's a good, just read them type quarterback. I don't think he can get the ball down the field. I think he relies on somebody like Tyreek Hill to, break it long to actually do it. But as far as his long pass go, I don't have much faith in that.
I don't either, but he doesn't really need, as long as they're there to catch the ball and then, the yak, that's all they really need. And how are they going to stop Waddle and Hill? I don't see it. 17 points. I'm sorry. It's more like 33, 31, 37, 31, 38, 31. I'm not saying who's winning, but my money would be, if I was a betting person, which I'm not, my money would be on the Dolphins.
Oh, jeez.
I hate to make you feel worse, Rob, but I completely agree. I think that's really light on Miami points. I think Miami's offense is a monster. As long as they can keep Tua upright and off the ground, he can make those passes that need to be made. Yeah, Tyreek Hill's a speedster, but Tyreek Hill doesn't need you to throw it long. He can catch slants and run it 100 yards, as Lisa well knows. So I think that the Dolphins come in, and I think that the Chargers, while I agree with you and I am on your side, Rob, I believe that Kellen Moore will be that unlocking of Justin Herbert. I think it's going to take a few games to work out. I don't think it happens the first game. Plus, your defense still needs time to mesh. You got Khalil Mack on the defensive end now. Plus, J.C. Jackson had a horrible year last year.
Really did.
So, who is he going to cover? Which one of them is he going to cover? Because if he's covering either one, he's going to.
He might not be starting.
That would probably be best. But either way, I think they blow the top off your offense. I think that Kellen Moore and Justin Herbert need a few more weeks to mesh. And I believe that the Dolphins come in and upset you all 31-27.
Oh, ooh, okay. You got the 31 in there. It's just the other two.
My last theory when it comes to the Chargers is this. They got 4 games to start the season and then bye in week 5. Oh, wow. If for some reason, if Staley is 0-4, because those 4 games are the Dolphins, Titans, Vikings, and then the Raiders. Mm. If he loses to the Raiders in week 4 and they have not won yet, I think he's gone.
I agree.
And I think Kellen Moore comes in and takes over the rest of the season.
I agree. 100%.
So you're saying 0-4, Staley no more is what we're saying.
I'm going to get a shirt made up with that saying because I got to be honest. I am not a Staley fan whatsoever. I wish he was gone, but then I also obviously, I want to see my Chargers do well. So I'm keeping with the positive approach.
Rob, you're also discounting the Dolphins defense in that secondary. I don't know.
That's a tough secondary too.
Yeah, it really is.
Xavier Howard and all them. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Didn't they bring in Gilmore?
No, that was the Cowboys.
Oh, that's right. That was the Cowboys.
Once again,
But they got Xavier Howard, who's the best quarterback in
my-
the league. So
You don't have to tell me. He
once again, the 5 most important players on the Chargers is that offensive line. If they play well, and if they don't, if nobody gets to Herbert, and Herbert can sit back there and pick people apart, with the weapons he has, Allen, Williams, Johnston, Palmer, Eckler coming out of the backfield. There are just a lot of weapons to contend with. Yes. Do the Dolphins have a good defense? Yes. Do they have, some good cornerbacks? Yes. But I just, like I said, I have to be all in early, because I can't be this middle of the road anymore, because being middle of the road, it always goes off the road. So I got to go this way. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But anyway, we've been talking for over an hour. It seems like it's been 10 minutes, really.
that was awesome. Yeah, that was great.
This has been so much fun to do. Thank you guys for coming on, and for everybody. Once again, this is the Let's Talk Sports Network. If you haven't already, go on to our YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the like button, sign up for notifications, so you can be aware, especially now that we're getting into football season. We have pretty much programming all weekend. So if you need anything, if you want to listen to anybody, we have betting shows where you can play some bets if you want to do that. Obviously, our wrap-up shows and everything like that. So, Omar, I'm looking forward to watching that show on Sunday with you guys. And Lisa, getting your show launched as well. Dan Harris is one of the best producers to have. Great guy. And we thank him. So everybody go out there, like, subscribe. And once again, guys, thank you so much for spending the time with us all. I appreciate it. And we will see you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. It's been fun.
Thank y'all.
Thank
Great
you,
time.